Happy New Year, everyone. It's a brand new year, 2025. We often think about making resolutions for ourselves, but have you ever thought about making a New Year's resolution to help you and your dog develop better teamwork? That's what we're talking about today on the McCann Dogs podcast. Welcome back. It's New Year's. It's a new year. Can you believe
it is
2025?
Welcome to 2025.
We survived yet another year.
We did. Well,
yes.
Presumably.
Yes.
Unless the calendar was wrong. Is that possible?
I don't know.
No, it really is 2025. It's the third day of 2025 and we're in the studio recording. And how was your New Year's? How was your Christmas?
It was quiet and nice.
Nice.
Quiet and nice, yes.
Excellent.
So, yeah, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
We had a real Christmas tree, as we always do. But this is the most driest real Christmas tree I think I'd ever had.
Oh.
So it ended up a few days after Christmas, there was more needles on the floor than on the tree. So we had to take it down early. So
it's already a done deal.
Yeah, it was a beautiful tree, but I don't know what happened to it. Maybe it was cut down in July. I don't know, but
that's when I get my Christmas tree.
In July.
And then by August, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, get rid of it. I just like it in my house through the summer.
How about your Christmas and New Year's?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It was same idea. Nothing too overly exciting. I did my best to keep it as quiet as possible, actually. My goals now that I am, at an age to make decisions for myself. My goals now are to just have some time to reflect, some time to have some quiet time in my life. Life can be pretty busy all year long, and it's nice to have some quiet. So I did make sure that I made sure that I connected with the immediate family a few times, and we did some things and had some wonderful times. But I also made sure that I spent some time just wandering around aimlessly on my property and not wandering around aimlessly on my couch and binging some Netflix and Yeah.
I always try to make sure to watch a few Christmas movies.
Yeah. I did watch that one, that the version of A Christmas
Scrooge
Carol
version.
that you liked with Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it Jim Carrey?
It was Jim Carrey. Yeah,
I hadn't realized that.
He did. He played
like
several.
His voice?
He played several of the roles.
I had no idea.
And he did a really good job.
So you like that one?
I really did.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yes.
So I usually watch the original. It's like black and white. And I did not watch that one this year, and probably one of the few years that I haven't.
Right. Yeah.
But I watched that version of it on Disney, and I really did enjoy it. Yeah.
Yes.
I was very impressed with Jim Carrey and his abilities.
I had no idea it was Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that great? And he had multiple roles he played in it. So
I really like that one. I think it's a good version.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I will definitely be looking that one up in the future. So, spent some time just chilling and refreshing for the new year. And
did you do any Christmas caroling?
I did not do any Christmas caroling, but I thought that came after Christmas. I'm still gearing up for that.
Oh, well, No, yeah. When I was a little girl, we would get carolers at our house. So people would come and knock on our door, or they would just come and start singing a Christmas song.
Well, it's funny because that seems to be that it was the tradition of the Christmas Carol, but now I guess we get our music elsewhere.
Right, yes.
We don't wait for random people to knock on our door. I do remember one time when I was a child at my grandmother's house, there was some sort of a Christmas Carol thing that came up to her door and knocked on the door, and we listened to people sing, and then off they went, I guess, to the next house.
Right,
but
yes.
It really hasn't been a big part of my life.
No, where we lived, I don't know, but we used to get every year multiple Christmas carolers.
Interesting.
And my mom, if my mom was just home, she goes, I'd stand and listen to them and then say thank you.
So is the goal to raise money, or is it just to sing?
I would imagine nowadays it would be a donation to a church or something.
I would think so too.
But I think my mom would just thank you and
I think that's what I'd do too, because I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I guess if it was a regular occurrence, we'd probably have a better idea.
Isn't it funny how too nowadays, if someone knocks on my door, I'm suspect. It's like, hide. I tend to hide. I don't want to open my door. Yeah. Whereas back in the olden days, you would think nothing of opening your door. And,
Well, and you'd think that nowadays people can tell you that they're coming by with such little effort. So you'd think that nowadays you wouldn't expect anyone to just drop by, but it still happens.
Yeah.
Weird people.
Actually, I just remember just before Christmas, we had a teenage boy knock on our door, and my partner answered it, and he's like, "Where's Dave?" And
Dave's not here,
yeah,
man.
so yeah, there's no one. Yeah, I think it's kind of like that. Yeah, there's no one here by that name, buddy.
Isn't that like
It was kind
one
of
of
weird.
the movies? Dave's not here, man. Is that Cheech and Chong?
I don't know.
So did the guy just go away?
Yeah, the guy just left. Oh, and they skateboarded away. He had a skateboard.
Oh, I bet it was a dare. Go knock on that house and say, "Where's Dave, man?" I swear that's from something. If you know what it's from, drop it in the comments below because I know it's from something. Some movie that I've seen at some point or some situation where people are joking about some jokes from a movie. Something. I think it's a real thing. Dave is not here, man. Is a real thing. All right.
On track. Let's get on track.
Let's talk about dogs. So how did Honda make out over Christmas?
Well, Santa was better to him than to anyone else in the house, of course. So, Honda had a good Christmas. How about your guys?
Yeah, they did well.
Yeah.
They had some bully sticks and things like that. But,
Right.
I mean, it's really not... it's really not that exciting for them because their life is pretty wonderful, but... Yeah,
Every day is
they
Christmas.
Had fun.
Yes.
They definitely enjoyed, the people that I had over to
Right,
visit
yeah.
and whatnot. They definitely enjoyed the company
Right.
and having some new people to sniff and
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that was a good time.
How about how about New Year's? Any big
New
parties?
Year's? No, actually.
Did you make it till midnight?
No. Oh, my heavens, no. My heavens, no. There is a very distinct face that I make when people say, "Oh, are you going to be up to ring in the new year?" And it's something like, if you're watching, you can see it. If you're listening, you can just imagine a really confused looking
Perplexed face,
Really
yes.
perplexed.
Like,
Yeah, that's
what?
a good
There's a
word for
midnight?
it.
What is that?
What?
Yeah.
Ring in the new year at what time? At midnight? Are you kidding? I mean, maybe if I get up to go pee, I'll say, "Oh, it's midnight. Look at that. Happy New Year." But no, it's been a lot of years now since I've seen rung in the new year. Right. So there's the Shannon that says, "Oh, I'm old enough now to make my own decisions and not go to the giant Christmas parties that I really don't feel good at." That same Shannon many years ago got wise on New Year's Eve and said, "You don't like staying up late.
Right.
So why do you want to torture yourself into staying up until midnight?" Because it's sort of what people do. Well, you're not regular people. So go to bed at 9. You'll be happier. Okay. So that was the conversation I had with myself at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. Every year now. Every year.
I managed to stay up. Yes.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
Did Honda stay up with you?
No, Honda did not stay up. I was watching the Canada junior game, Canada versus the U.S., and didn't turn out well for Canada.
No, that's too bad.
But that kind of kept me awake, and then I managed to stay awake for the rest of it. Flipping through the different New Year's countdowns, and it was interesting because CBC, of course, was showing the different time zones of Canada. And as my son lives in Newfoundland, and they're an hour and a half ahead of us.
Okay.
So I was, at 10:30, it's like I'm counting down the Newfoundland one, and sent my son a Happy New Year. And so that was kind of, that kind of kept me going, looking at the different time zones. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if I had gone to a party, it probably would have been the party that my sister had at her house, and party, quote unquote, like just a big family celebration, lots of kids in the family, etc. And she sent me the midnight video, and I was like, "Yep, pretty glad I was at home in bed for that." It was just chaos.
Right,
Like they were having a blast, which is great, but there was like 8 children dancing, singing, hollering, running around the living room. It was a party.
It was a party.
It was a good time. And like, other than, me and my bah humbug. If that was happening at 3:00 in the afternoon, I would have been singing and dancing with them. But at midnight, no, thank you. All right. So let's talk about dogs heading into the new year.
Well, I
this
think
must be the year that you're finally going to get your camel.
I've never thought about having a pet camel. Never. I've thought about a donkey. I've thought about a miniature goat, an alpaca. Camel hasn't crossed my mind. Or a tiny little Scottish Highland cow, like little mini cow.
That would be cute.
Yes, I've thought of a lot of animals, but camel's not there.
Oh.
But I have made some New Year's resolutions that are dog related.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the things, as you know, my dog Honda is 15 and a half, and he's a tiny breed, and his nails are starting to get very brittle and just frail. He's becoming a frail little old man.
Aww.
And I want to make sure that I'm looking after his feet properly. So my New Year's resolution is to really pay attention to trimming his toenails correctly and making sure that I trim the hair out from between his toes so he has good traction on the floor.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And
just
he won't get toe balls.
Right.
From walking out in the snow.
In the snow, yes. And just, you know, really caring for his nails because, you know, as I'm getting older, I know there's lots of aches and pains. So I can only imagine that, you know, he's getting some aches and pains too. So, you know, I know the importance of good footwear for us. So I want to make sure that his nails are short, his pads are exposed, and there's no hair covering them. And that, you know, he feels confident on his feet.
Perfect. So is this just something that you sort of don't necessarily have a habit for yet? Like,
I don't have a habit for it.
Okay.
I know we always talk about the importance of toenails. Toenail Tuesday, we call it. But I've gotten away from Toenail Tuesday. I used to be very adamant. I'd always trim toenails on Tuesdays. But I'm finding now that, you know, maybe, you know, I'm waiting another extra week or maybe, you know, 2.5 weeks has gone by and I haven't looked at Honda's nails. So that's my resolution this year. I'm getting back to good toenail hygiene and trimming of Honda's feet too, because that's something I don't always do. But I'm recognizing now that as he's aging, he needs a little bit, you know, make sure his paws have no hair that's slippery when he's maneuvering around on hardwood floors.
good idea. That'll be much more comfortable for him. And I think you should make the same resolutions for yourself. Trim your toenails well and make sure that you're trimming all the hair. I think that will set you up.
Hobbit feet.
I think that'll set you up for good things too.
So that's I feel it's very achievable. Achievable because yes, I want.
I think that's a really important thing to do with New Year's resolutions. I tend to shy away from New Year's resolutions because I feel like there's such a strong bias towards them failing to begin with. Like they just sort of have this, they already have this sort of biased feeling of this, you know, new year coming in, out with the old, in with the new, and then by midway through January, you're already back into your old habits. So what I try to do with New Year's resolutions, rather than look at sort of some big change that I'm going to make in my life that may or may not end up coming to fruition. And putting such a huge focus on it in a resolution makes it feel like you're already failing things before you've really even started the year if you don't achieve that goal. So I tend to shy a little bit away from New Year's resolutions. But what I do is I like to look at things that have served me well in the year leading up.
Okay, yeah.
So, you know, systems in my dog training, systems in my life, you know, if there's like the journey and making yourself a better person and all of those things, if there are things that have really stuck out in my mind as being really beneficial to me through the year before, I make a pledge to continue those things. I make a pledge to continue to make those things part of my life and to try to continue to develop those systems, whatever they happen to be. You know, whatever it is that makes me feel better about me as a person, whatever it is that makes me feel like I'm wiser and stronger and, you know, okay, 2025 is going to be great because last year I figured out the nuances that are stuck with these emotions. So I'm going to carry that forward into 2025 and make sure that I do really well with those things. And I don't know, for me, it feels like it's this nice, achievable goal, but it's also celebrating things rather than just anticipating, hopefully, this resolution doesn't fall apart. So, yeah, so that's my shtick.
Right.
And there's a few things. There's some self-care things for sure that are huge that I figured out in 2024. And I will be continuing those traits into 2025. And, of course, there's always dog training stuff.
Right,
because
yes.
dog training is this forever growing thing. For the people that want the knowledge in dog training, you know that you will always have something to learn.
Right. Yes. Dog training can very much become a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah.
We shed all our non-dog friends. We only have dog friends, dog family left.
Yes.
All of our family is very well trained at how to deal with the new dog, the new puppy, etc.
Right.
Yeah. So Levon is 9-ish months now, probably about 9.5 months old now. So he is, he had his first Christmas. He's experiencing his first snow.
Right. Oh, yes.
There's all sorts of firsts for
the
him.
cold weather and
Yeah. So funny. I live quite a distance from the training hall and from where we're sitting right now. Excuse me. I live probably about an hour and 20 minutes a drive away, 77 kilometers exactly. So I'm quite a distance, and I seem to be on a different planet when it comes to weather. So at my place, there's no snow. I got like a dusting on the grass. And of course, I'm living in my own little world for the
Right,
last
yeah.
week and a half
Yeah.
down there and, pretty much sticking in that area. So I've forgotten that there's
Right.
life outside of my little town. And I've forgotten that weather patterns might be different. So
Right.
this morning as I was driving here, as I was getting closer, the roads were getting whiter and whiter. And it was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of snow here. There's a
Right.
good 10 centimeters or so of snow here
Yeah.
that I didn't have when I left home. So very exciting for Levon because
Right,
he,
yes.
of course, loves the snow. So he was tearing around in the snow this morning, chasing Ned, running at me, all the things, running at me in a fun way, of course. All the things that you see that you think, oh, this is such a joyful expression right now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he
Oh, that's
was
fun.
having a blast. We were practicing recalls in the snow. He did great with all his recalls this morning. Yeah. Yeah, it was lots of fun.
Yeah.
So
And speaking of weather too, for those of you who know instructor Robbie, who's one of our online instructors, she lives about 2.5 hours north of us.
Yes.
And they're just like overloaded with snow.
Absolutely slammed.
Yeah, she's in a whole different world than us. So
she sent a picture and they already probably had, I would say, I don't know, was it probably 20 or so inches of snow that they already had? And she said, we're expecting
They're
another
expecting-
60
yes.
centimeters. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot of snow. I've
Crazy.
got 3 flakes down here.
Southern Ontario is really an
Yeah, it
amazing
is.
area for weather because
Yeah.
you can, like you drive an hour to your place and there's no snow, and then drive 2 hours north and it's over your head.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And if you go west, it's like you're in Hawaii.
Right. Yes. I think it's we're surrounded by the Great Lakes and
Yes.
just lake effect snow and all that.
Yeah,
really affects
precisely.
things.
Yeah, and
Or
I'm very close to Lake Erie, so that's
and
definitely.
you're not super far from Buffalo that gets a ton of snow.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this is my second winter there. And I have yet to really experience a lot of snow there. So I used my snowblower twice last year because it was new and I wanted to use it. I
Right.
really didn't need to use it on those times. And this year, so far, I haven't used it once. And I mean, I don't think I'm complaining about that.
right. Exactly.
But-
it is fun though to use,
but it's
yeah.
nice. It's nice to have some snow. I mean,
Right.
yesterday it was muddy at my place yesterday. It was muddy and wet.
And mud
My
and dogs are not a
my
good match.
floors
Yes.
are tragic right now. Anyways, okay, so let's talk about what are some of the things that you think that we should be considering for moving into the new year and adopting good habits. Let's not call them resolutions because, again, like I said, they're often doomed to fail just because of the setup of the bias of the resolution. So let's talk about some of the things that we can do, good habits that we can have moving into 2025 to make sure that our dogs have the best possible lives that they can have.
Well, we want to look at problem areas, and you know what your dog's problem areas are. If they're pulling on leash, or maybe they are jumping all over guests, they're not coming when they're called. Those are problem areas.
Okay.
So I like to look at that and go, you know what? I don't want to use resolution, but my resolution is I'm going to work on those areas. So I'm going to be honest with myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at my dog through rose-colored glasses, their behavior, and I'm going to be honest and I'm going to work on those
And
things.
that's hard. That's a really hard thing for a lot of us to do. I know that. So there's the dog training people. They're like a whole other race, right? The dog training people who can become clinical because this is what we do, right? I find with myself when I run into friends, family with dogs, etc., and they're talking about problems that they're experiencing and they've not necessarily really invested anything into wanting to solve these problems. They have a lot of ways to excuse away these problems.
Right, yes.
So that's what you're referring to when you say rose-colored glasses.
Right,
So on
yes.
one end of the spectrum, there's those of us who are completely clinical about it, right? Like I can totally at this point detach the overwhelming majority of my emotions and ego from my dogs and
Right.
say, okay, Levon just did this. That means I need to buckle down on this, and this, and make sure that he understands that is not an acceptable thing. This is the desired behavior, etc. instead. And then I go to work with that thing. And there's never any point anymore where I think, oh, this hurts. This hurts my ego. This feels like crap because I'm a dog trainer, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't go to that place anymore, but I do remember going to that place. Like, I remember as I was coming up in dog training, and I would still consider myself coming up in dog training. When I first started in dog training, I remember being devastated by the mistakes. I remember thinking, like, my dog is never going to be like that dog over there because I just don't know how to do this thing. So, not that we want to go there. We definitely don't want to go there, but we want to have sort of a healthy medium where there's not an ego involvement, right?
Right.
We're not thinking like this is such a direct reflection or this poor behavior is such a direct reflection of me that I'm going to go to pieces. Instead, what we want to do is, oh, you look like you just thought of something really good to say.
I don't know when it's the proper time to interject this, but I have it's a tiny story. It's not very exciting, but it's just a tiny story.
Whoa, well. I was excited about it.
Oh, no, it's nothing that exciting.
Sure. But yeah, so like the happy medium, is this what your story's about then?
Well, no,
I'm dying to hear the story
No,
now.
it's not that good. Everyone's going to be so disappointed. Everyone's going to be very disappointed when they hear it.
I've made it too big.
Many years ago when I was showing my corgi, Gavin, my little corgi, I ran into another person showing her corgi, which was a sister of Gavin's. And I was having some issues with Gavin with, I can't remember what it was specifically, but as dog trainer to dog trainer, I just mentioned, I said, have you seen this in your dog? This is what I'm seeing in Gavin. And her response, I'll never forget this, was she said to me, she goes, oh, well, I'm a professional dog trainer. I don't have any problems with my dogs. And I was
she like a brand new professional dog trainer? I'm sorry, but I had to move the mic.
I know. I was flabbergasted. I didn't even know what to say. Like I was in my, my mid-20s maybe, or maybe late 20s. And I didn't know, like now I would, I'm much more savvy with speaking with people. But I was so flabbergasted somebody would say that I thought, you know absolutely nothing.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
Like professional dog trainers.
Rose-colored dog glasses.
Right, yes. And
glasses.
I really don't know who she is or who she was but
just happened to have
she was a self-proclaimed professional dog trainer, I guess. And she has no problems with her dogs.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought, it just...
Yeah. So you got the one perfect dog in the world that has no trouble.
Right, yeah. But I thought, that is so far from the truth.
Yeah.
Like, dog trainers... We have trouble too with our dogs.
Dogs are dogs. They can be chaos. They can be wonderful. They can be scavengers. They can be. There's so many facets to the dog.
Right.
That it's absolutely hard to imagine any perfect dog out there. And I would say my dogs are perfect because I love them and they're wonderful.
Right.
But they still need information and they still need to understand how to navigate the human world.
Right.
My goodness.
We see the problems in our dogs because our dogs are like, it's like every person has their flaws. Yeah. There's no perfect person, so there's no perfect dog. So of course I'm going to see that and I'm going to work to remedy it. But I would never say, I knew how to remedy it, but I didn't have a problem in the first place.
Right.
Like,
yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, anybody who is listening know that there is no perfect dog out there. And if you are thinking that you have the perfect dog because they are wonderful, we are right there with you. Our dogs are wonderful, and we
all
find
my dogs are perfect.
We find them absolutely perfect in that regard, but behaviorally, there are definitely things that we need to do to make sure that they align well with our lives. There's no perfect dog out there that doesn't have any issues.
So that was my story. Yeah. And it is a funny story.
It is funny.
But I remember just like my jaw just dropped.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was just, mentioning, have you seen this in your dog? Because they're related. And
I'm a professional dog trainer. I have no trouble. That's like saying I'm a professional child raiser and my child has no trouble. Like it doesn't make sense. You might be able to diagnose and you might be able to help cure the problem much quicker than your average layperson who's not a professional child trainer. Yeah. I don't know what that would be.
I don't know.
But you don't create perfect children just because you're a professional.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a funny story. My goodness. Mm-hmm. I try to be more critical of myself than that, and not in a negative way, not in a way where I'm trying to tear myself down, but in a way where I can be honest with myself so I can make things better.
Right.
Like right now, my biggest struggle I would say with Levon right now is greeting manners. Mm-hmm. He is the friendliest little fart. I love him to pieces because he's so friendly. And Tollers are typically more aloof, which is one of the things that I love about them. I like the dog who is a little bit more discerning.
Right.
Ned was a super friendly little puppy as well. All my other Tollers, they've had their issues. You know, Tollers being a smaller breed genetically, there's still some temperament stuff that I would say in my older lines of Tollers that I had to work through, and they weren't necessarily eager to love everybody, although Jaden was the exception to that rule. He was very friendly and easy with everybody, but it had a limit, right? Like his friendliness, where a golden retriever or a lab retriever would be on your lap going, I love you, you're my new best friend. Let's go everywhere together. Let's do everything together until the next person comes along, and then they're the new, fascination best friend.
Right, yeah.
Tollers aren't like that. They'll sort of wander over and go, hey, how's it going? All right, nice to meet you. See you later, right? Like that's a well-tempered Toller in my perspective. They're the actual standard calls for an aloof dog, which I prefer. I like a dog that's not everybody else's best friend.
Yes.
But Levon is the exception. Oh my goodness. And I've been waiting for him to grow out of it, and he doesn't seem to be growing out of it. So now we've okay, I'm rolling up my sleeves. We got to get some work done on these greeting manners. And it's not even necessarily the greeting manners themselves. It's the opportunity for attention from any person from him. So we spend a lot of time wandering through town, so I can reward him for ignoring people. I got a vest for him that has a giant sign on each side that says ignore me. Because the dog is so cute.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
As soon as people see him, they're cooing and awing. And of course, as soon as they make eye contact and he sees them, our training just blows up.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I had to get in front of that. And so I got him this vest with big signs on the side that say ignore me. And it's really helped.
Is it worked?
Now?
Yeah. Does anyone question you on it? Or
every once in a while, someone will ask me. Actually, people ask if he's going to be my dog a lot. That surprises me.
Oh, maybe they think you're training.
It surprises me. I don't know if the vest makes it look like I'm training a service dog or something like that, or if that we've gotten too far away from training our dogs, and people see somebody working with a dog and they think, oh, it must be something bigger than just a pet dog. But I mean, it surprises me that we don't see more and more of this. So yeah, I'm out and about quite a bit. My town has lots of places that allows dogs inside. It's a smaller town. Home Depots and things like that, some of them do. So if you're looking for a place to train your dog, I would definitely recommend calling and seeing if they allow dogs first. I know that where I lived before, the Home Depot initially allowed dogs. I remember taking Reggie in as a puppy and doing all sorts of training at Home Depot. But then when I went to take Ned in as a puppy, they stopped me at the door and said, sorry, he's not allowed in here. So things change too. Just give them a call.
A few bad apples can spoil.
It really can.
Some people aren't paying attention to their dog. Their dog is lifting their legs on displays. Possibly a dog bites someone. So
well, and it doesn't take long. If you go on social media these days, it doesn't take long to find a post about some fake service dog who's caused trouble out there in the real world by pretending to be a service dog when they don't have the training behind them. So please, 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 we implore you, if you just want to bring your dogs with you somewhere, think about what that can cause for other people. It's just not a good scene. And there's lots of actual service dogs that get really put off or might get jumped on, etc. And that costs a person their actual freedom. So please don't. Please think twice about bringing your dog with you into a store if they are not well trained and don't have the credentials to be there with you. So unless it's a store that allows dogs, of course, in which case,
and then
please be good about what you're
watch your dog. I wouldn't.
No flexies.
No flexies.
No retractable leashes.
And if I was going to the Home Depot, say to buy some lighting for my house, I'm going to be looking up at the lights that they have on display and focusing on the lights. I'm not going to be watching my dog. So my dog will get into mischief possibly. If I take my dog to Home Depot, I'm focusing on my dog. I'm not focusing on what color I'm painting my house. I'm watching my dog. I want to be a good dog owner.
Definitely. So if I had a dog like Ned, for example, who is going to be 8 in March, incredibly well trained, not going to be an issue with anything, I would bring that dog with me, and maybe I'm shopping for lights, But before I start looking up at the lights, Ned, get in and sit. Good dog. Or lie down.
Right.
Now he's stationary. I know he's going to be a good dog. Now I can look at the lights all I want and not
Right.
worry about my dog going and sticking his nose in someone's butt when I'm not paying attention, or lifting his leg on something.
Right, because that's, because that's, you see dogs lifting their legs.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worse, making some logs.
Yeah. What rolls downstairs, the loader in pairs, your neighbor's dog. Oh my gosh. Okay. So
yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely, if I'm taking Levon into Canadian Tire, et cetera, I'm not shopping.
Right.
I'm not shopping. I am 100% focused on him. I'm 100% focused on him and making sure that I'm not in other people's way. I'm making sure that we are entering spaces with the awareness of who is around, and I've got full control of him, et cetera. I mean, my goal with Levon when I'm out and about with him is that I'm training. And my goal with that vest is for him to realize that everyone is not there for him.
Right.
They're not just there for him, because he has such amazing skills at this point. You know, at 9 months old, we've been working hard for 9 months, right? Well, for 7 months since he's been home. He has got great healing skills. He has got great stay skills. He's got, his recall is coming along beautifully. Everything is falling into place so nicely. The big struggle is the people part. So that's the part that I need to nail down now. Right. It's never going to get better if I don't work on it.
Exactly, right.
There's like this movement lately in the dog training world that has people doing things like diving behind cars when there might be a situation where their dog might get excited by something instead of working through it, right? And I'm not talking about a dog who actually has aggression issues. So let's just talk about your average dog who might start to become a little bit reactive because they're so stimulated by the world. There's been this movement to sort of run behind buildings and avoid triggers and avoid other dogs and avoid things that might bring out excitement, etc. And I don't know what the end game is for that. Right. Do you?
Yeah, no.
How do you get to the point where your dog learns to be good in that scenario if all you ever do is avoid that scenario?
Right, yes.
You know, it's like my nephew hating math and being confused by math. And every time he is faced with a math problem, I say, it's okay, you don't have to deal with that. And I run away with him. How is he?
Right. How is he ever going to? Yeah.
I don't know where that analogy came from.
I kind of liked it though, because I don't like math, and I wish I'd been given the opportunity to hide from it.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Well, and would you have ever gotten better?
No.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? And I think depending on what your goals are, you need to look critically at the situation.
Right.
And you need to be able to look critically at the situation. So that's sort of a really long-winded way of coming back to those rose-colored glasses.
Right. Yes.
You know, can you really truly look at your dog and say, okay, I need to work on this with you, you know? And I would say we should be doing that with our kids. I would say we should be doing that with our lives, our jobs, etc. Right. We should be able to critically look at the things in our lives and say, how can I make this better? Does it need to be made better?
Right. Yes.
Off? Yes. And if it does need to be made better, okay, how do I do that? Right. How do I go about that? But if those rose-colored glasses are keeping us from actually seeing that there's a problem.
Right. Yes. And it's I think some people are embarrassed to admit there's a problem.
Yeah.
But there's no embarrassment.
No, I'm not embarrassed that Levon's excited about people.
Right. Yeah. It's like, no, there's, or my dog's not coming when they're called. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. Let's get some help. Let's
exactly.
Let's work on this. Let's find out why.
Yeah. Well, the amount of progress, I mean, just sitting here and talking about this, actually, I'm thinking back to where I started this really deep desire to work through his excitement with people, because I stopped believing he was just going to grow out of it like all my other tollers.
Right.
Have.
Yeah.
Again, looking critically at the situation. And now the amount of progress that I've made since I started with the Ignore Me vest and wandering through and making sure that people didn't see his cute little face, and his wiggling little body, and blow up our training every single time, giving me better tools to be able to accomplish this goal. We've made tremendous progress.
Right, yes.
Absolutely tremendous progress, where now we can walk through our Canadian Tire and he barely looks sideways at people because he didn't get the reinforcement from them. Right?
Yes.
If he was, when we were going in before I got the Ignore Me vest, and of course I'm trying to train, and people are so enamored with how cute
Right,
he is.
yes.
And I get that because he's adorable. And then when he starts wiggling at you and his little ears go back, he's just the cutest
Right,
thing.
yes.
Oh my gosh, I just want to
Yes.
smush him. But it's not good for our training,
No,
right? He
no.
can't get from point A to point B if there's 3 people in the way. I mean,
Right.
he's going to stop at the first one and we're never going to get any further.
Right,
So
yes.
we need to work through this problem. And we've made tremendous progress in the month.
Mm-hmm.
He can now walk through Canadian Tire and he doesn't think about people. He can now walk through the neighborhoods that normally previously
Right,
we were struggling with. Like his training would fall apart. He would go from this lovely heel position at my side to just like, I can't think because there's a person and I'm so excited about it. So,
Yes.
all right, let's work through this. We'll systematically, chip away at it bit by bit by bit. No success in dog training happens overnight.
No.
I shouldn't say no, but
and
it's very rare.
And it doesn't happen without work either.
That's right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So you need to, a good thing to do is to write down the problems.
Yep.
Say, okay, this is what I wish he was better at, or this
Yeah.
is a problem.
Yeah.
Write it down, and then it's fresh in your mind, and you can say, okay, how do we fix this?
Yeah,
Or you can,
exactly.
approach a dog trainer. How do I fix this? What do
Yeah.
I start to do to make this better? And sometimes the solution is different. So if my dog is having problems with one thing, I might not need to address that. I might need to address something deeper
Yeah.
that's at a base, achieve that, then move on to that higher task that
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
Yeah, let's break that down a little bit too, because I think that that's a really interesting point you just made. So, just to think of a random thing. Say, for example, here's a dog that, like Levon, anytime there's food involved, maybe. So Levon is people right now, right? Anytime there's food, maybe that dog goes to pieces, right? Maybe that dog just loses his mind because he's so food motivated. Oh my gosh, I see the food. I hear the crinkle of the food bag and I'm there and I'm leaping and I'm spinning and I'm so excited.
Yeah, or
So-
even like snatching at the food. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people, they go to give their dog a treat and the dog takes their fingers with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So here is an issue that seemingly specifically related to food. However, on a broader scale, what would you say is the bigger issue there?
The dog lacks emotional control.
Absolutely. So
It's like me at the candy store. I'm just grabbing.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. Anybody who has ever seen Swanee at a candy buffet knows. Swanee is
I love
fueled by
candy.
candy.
Yes,
She's
powered
fueled
by candy.
Yep. I'm gonna get you some sort of uniform that says that. That should be Swanee's logo. Alrighty, so dog lacks emotional control. So how do we start this? Like, would we start trying to calm this dog down when we're feeding it its meals? How do we go about solving this problem? Let's just break it down a little bit. If this was a problem that you were having with your dog, and let's look at both management and training, and let's break this problem down a little bit. So what would you do for management first off?
For management, I'm going to make sure that I have the dog on a leash or a long line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be sure that food is not overpowering. So I'm going to use a much lower value treat, probably the dog's kibble.
Okay.
So I'm going to make things easier for the dog. I'm going to work on some emotional control type exercises.
And what might some of those be?
Well, we have an excellent one that we call rule outs, which is kind of similar to leaving something.
Yeah.
So it's leave the treat in my hand because I'm going to be giving you a better treat. Or leave the treat on the floor. That's forbidden, that one, because I have something else that's better for you. So the dog has to problem solve to figure out what behavior is going to get them the reward. And
Perfect.
it's calm behavior that gets them the reward.
Absolutely. So a couple of things there. The management perspective is being able to control what happens before you've got the training outcome. Right. So for management, for example, having that leash or line on so that you can control the dog physically, whether you're placing the sit, whether you are helping your dog into the down, whatever the case may be, the leash allows you to do that thing without having to chase the dog, try to grab at the dog, be all awkward trying to handle the dog, etc.
Right, yes. Because a lot of times once we start touching the dog gets very excited.
Yeah,
and
for
now,
sure.
we're manhandling the dog
Yeah.
and the dog's going over the top
And-
saying, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's really hard for us to stay calm, cool, and collected in that scenario when we're trying to physically grab the dog. And, you know, that is a hard thing. And the problem with that is that it makes you look like a poor leader. You know, leaders are calm, cool, and collected, right? A leader doesn't go, oh my God, everything's all over the place. A leader goes, you're going to sit for a moment. Good. Good for you, right? Like that's the difference between somebody who is trying to be a leader and someone who's actually showing good leadership quality.
You don't want to look frazzled.
Exactly. So the leash allows you to do that, right? So if I am working with my dog, you know, say I'm trying to get his food bowl down on the ground and he is losing his mind. Well, I have a means of taking control if I have the leash on. You know, maybe I crate my dog for a little while I'm pouring out his meal. Maybe I get him used to the idea that that noise doesn't necessarily mean food is coming for him. You know, there's all sorts of little tactics that I might take on this.
I'll even sometimes with a dog that's very excited about food, when the dog is in another room with another person or outdoors with a person, I'll get the kibble ready. So the prep of the kibble is not loading the dog's excitement. The food is already ready and I can work on presenting it. I don't have to worry about that loading behavior.
What you just said there was genius. And that's the part that I think a lot of people miss because we need to feed the dog, right? So the dog is crazy chaotic and I need to feed my dog its breakfast. So I'm just going to let this scenario play out as I get the food. The dog gets excited, loads, does all these things that build the excitement and start releasing all the endorphins and those feel-good chemicals and whatnot. And you've basically just made that problem bigger. Because the dog didn't learn anything other than that excitement pays off. Right?
So, and you probably became frazzled during it and your anxiety level went up and the dog's like, you know what? It's funny when you do that, and I'm going to build up, and I can frazzle you, and
absolutely
Yes,
it's so funny because a lot of the times we see the same tactics that we would use to actually build excitement and whatnot being used in situations where people want to strip the excitement out of things, right? Like trying to grab at the dog and trying to take control without having that sort of calm ability to do so. It's very similar to what I would do if I wanted my dog to be chaotic, right? If I was trying to get him excited about something, I'd reach out and give him a little pinch. I'd be like, hey, you, hey, oh, what are you doing? Give him a little shove away, right? Give him like, Levon loves to play rough. So when I'm trying to get him excited, it doesn't take much. He's really easy to excite. I love him. He's such a great little dog. But truly, those are the things I do, right? I reach out and I give him a shove and he's like, yeah, this is the best game ever. Like he just has so much fun with it. You know, if I was trying to get, so Ned's a little bit cooler headed, for example. If I was trying to get Ned excited, I'd be running back and forth, right? Like I'd be going to the right and then going to the left and giving him a little bit of a shove, not like I'd give Levon, but the same sort of thing. I'd be using that chaotic energy to get him excited. So if I use that chaotic energy to get him excited, then chances are it's going to work against me to use when I'm trying to bring him down and calm him.
So, a good one is when you go to someone's house and their dog's off leash jumping all over you, the chaos that ensues during that moment. And I don't know why people think that yelling down or off is going to work if they haven't done any training in it. But yes, and it just feeds the dog. It gets higher and higher. Yes.
That would be a good actual resolution to make. Don't use commands that you have not trained.
Oh, yes.
That would be a really good resolution.
One of the questions I'll get sometimes is people will say, my dog's barking and I called out quiet and it didn't work. And I'll say, well, what have you done to teach your dog the word quiet? And then we see the issue there and say, okay, now we got to work with quiet.
Yes, absolutely. There, you know, didn't you say you had a friend who brought home an 8-week-old puppy that already knows how to come when it's called and come when it's called, sit when it's told, and shake a paw?
Yep, those are the big three.
Always the shake a paw in there. That makes me laugh.
Yes,
puppies must have the shake a paw installed when they come home because most puppies seem to know how to shake a paw, but it always gets lumped in with those two important commands. Oh, he knows how to sit, he knows how to come when he's called, and he knows how to shake a paw. Oh, okay. How's that going to come in handy? I mean, shake a paw is a cute trick. Pups being super cooperative, generally they're going to come when they're called until they don't.
Right.
And I mean that unfortunately, that works against us as professional dog trainers so often because people think that they have the dog that already is going to come when they're called, and they get this false sense of security. And then 12 weeks or 4 months hit, depending on the type of dog and the dog's temperament itself. And that dog stops coming when it's called. And then, of course, you have lost this really awesome window of opportunity from that 8 to 12 or 16 week mark where your puppy was super cooperative and you could capitalize on that cooperation so well. I mean, do you ever...
We expect puppies at that age to be good. A lot of people will do some handling. Oh, I can touch them anywhere. You know, well, we expect that out of a 10-week-old puppy.
Yep.
Puppies are genetically programmed to be good at that age.
Absolutely. And a lot of the actual genetics of the dog don't start to develop until they get into a little bit of a later period in life. When they hit sort of that 12-week mark, the 4-month mark, you're going to start to see more genetic tendencies. You know, they're probably laying dormant there while the dog is doing all of this work, growing and, coming from a blob to a seeing, hearing, smelling, thinking being, etc. Their brains are fully developed by about 8 weeks of age, but they're still maturing. You know, like the development of the brain is there, but it needs to be filled with all sorts of things. And there's all sorts of deep-rooted instincts that you're going to start to see coming out once they hit a certain age. So don't let that 8-week-old puppy convince you.
Right, yes.
Like, take that time, use the opportunity, do the training, because it's so much easier to get the foundation built when you've got that cooperative nature.
Right.
And then when it falls apart, you're at least that much further ahead, and it will fall apart. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised, and don't think everything is out the window when it falls apart.
Right,
It all will at some point. You'll be like, but yesterday he was perfect.
Right, yep.
Where did this dog come from? It's the way it happens in dogs.
Yes.
And you know what? If you've done some foundational work, even if you've not done some foundational work, it's just a matter of at that point going, okay, now is the time then. I got to roll up my sleeves and I've got to make this all make sense to the dog, and I've got to make it all make sense to me. So
and also keep in mind too that puppies are very situational. So in your house, in your kitchen, chances are your puppy will respond to, your body language and the verbal sit. They're going to, come in your house. There's nothing else, but, take them out to the forest. Chances are you'll lose them. They will have no idea what sit means or come means when they're in the forest.
Yeah. So question for you actually on that note. When you have a young dog, what would you say are your rituals when you get to a new space?
I backtrack and go back to basics.
Okay.
So say I have my puppy, say I have a baby puppy and he can sit on just a verbal now in my kitchen. Well, as I start to move out, I don't expect that he can do that at the beach, or I don't expect that he can do that at my mom's house. So I'm going to backtrack to the very first lessons, and I'm going to review them a couple of times. So I'm going to say, sit and show him with the lure, reward that a few times. And then I'm going to start to move quicklier, because if quicklier is a word, because I know he can, he can do that back at my house. So, but I am going to review things.
Perfect.
Going to go back to basics.
Yeah, me too. And then when you are working, so say you have a dog that is, let's say a sub 18-month-old dog.
Okay.
So let's say a Levon, right? Levon.
I got a Levon.
You got a Levon. So at 9.5 months old with Levon, every time I go to a space, training is at the forefront of my mind. Right. He is not yet at the age where, like Ned, I go up to my sister's, I go to a friend's house, I go here, I go there. If Ned's with me, he's just a tag along.
Right, yes.
I'm not thinking about him. Not that I'm not thinking about him, but you know what I mean. I'm not having to manage him is basically what I mean. He is at an age where his training is well enough in place and well enough established, and he's mature enough, and like his expectations are very well ingrained at this point. He meets them all the time, and if there's anything that starts to slip, That's what, as a dog trainer, we do differently, is as soon as something starts to slip, oh, okay, I'm on it. I need to do a few reminders about this, or, a training session on that. And then life kind of springs back into normalcy.
And it's an example of how, I guess the word anal would be about it. Honda doesn't hear, but if Honda could hear, and I called out Honda when I was at my mom's, and I didn't get an instant response, I have a problem now.
Yeah.
Whereas other people would go, Honda. Yeah. Oh, he's here. He's fine now.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, Honda. Okay, I have a dog training issue.
Yeah.
We have super high expectations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we will immediately go, oh, okay. And then I'll be like, Mom, hang on, I got to address this.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
absolutely.
but it's funny how we'll take things to such high levels.
Definitely.
But it keeps our dogs working well. And our dogs love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and with Levon at this point, it's going to be a while yet before I ever get to that mentality with him where I'm like, okay, I've gotten to a new space. I don't need to worry about him. He can self-govern. He knows how to just automatically set himself up to be where he needs to be, right? Like with Ned, for example, if I got him out of the car, he would tuck himself into my side and sit until he was released, right? That is what we have rehearsed over and over and over again. So to get to that point, with Levon, for example, we are rehearsing over and over and over again. I let him out of the car, get in, sit. Yes. I reward him. Sometimes I even go, okay, up you go. He goes back in the car. We repeat it again. So if I get to a new location and I do these quick little training reminders with him, it's sort of like warming up at every new location, right? And I always do this. I always do listening skills first. People often ask us, oh, well, he's so distracted at new locations. I just let him sniff a bit first. And then once it's gotten out of his system, then I ask him to listen at that point. Well, yeah, you're setting yourself up for a very unfortunate situation where your dog learns that he doesn't have to listen during that first initial excitement period of something, and he only has to listen once he's come down from adrenaline. And truly, when a dog is excited, they need to learn how to listen. Right. When a dog is in chase mode, they need to learn how to listen. And I'm not just saying this facetiously. They literally need to learn how to listen. And I always use the analogy of the dead coyote on the side of the highway, right? If that coyote was well aware of his surroundings and not distracted easily, there's no way he would be there. If he's chasing a bunny and he's trying to nail down dinner, he shuts out everything around him, right? So that he can beeline on that bunny, catch that bunny, feed himself, and survive, right? This is the natural being of the dog. The dog, when they get excited, stimulated, when they're in chase mode, etc., they don't know how to listen at that point. We need to train that, which is why avoiding all those situations or never getting to those situations is so problematic, right? So I make it a point with Levon, and have been since he was, we maybe spent a couple of weeks just being very quiet at home with his training and carrying him around everywhere else, right? Like we would come to the training hall, etc. And when he's greeting people, I'd have him up in arms so he's not rehearsing the wrong things, etc. But for the most part, I've been rehearsing like warm-ups and training in new locations since he came home. And that has served me well, because when he gets to a new location, like, was it hard initially? Of course. Is it still hard at times now when it's a new novel location? Of course. But my goal is future with an excellent trained, highly trained dog like Ned. It is not to get by in the moment. Right, yes. So it's not about just weathering that distraction until he's no longer distracted. It's about making sure that he understands how to listen and how to hear me in those moments where he's feeling distracted. So I might let him out of the car, do get in and sit, pay him a really high value reward, and then say, okay, go hurry up, let him go and lift his legs, sort of thing. Or I might say, get in and sit, pay him, stick him back in the car, release him, rehearse, get in and sit, pay him, stick him back in the car, rehearse it again. I might do that several times and then just go home. I might stop somewhere on my way home, literally just to park in a parking lot, let him out of the car, get in and sit, do some look at me, maybe do a couple of quick responses to name, and then, yay, what a good boy, back up in the car he goes, and off we go home, right? It's such a small investment in time, and initially those moments are hard because the locations are novel and they're so exciting for the dog. But the rehearsal of him doing that exact thing of getting out of the car, paying attention to me, getting out of the car, paying attention to me, getting out of the car, paying attention to me, sometimes getting freedom in that space to go and, sniff and pee and whatever.
Right.
I mean, his life is not all about training. It is. But there's lots of freedom in that as well for him to sniff and investigate things, etc. And the only thing I ask is that he keeps his ears on so that when I do say, Levon, he turns and moves back to me.
Yes.
So, I mean, those are the really important things to me, right? I want my dogs to be able to be dogs. I want to make sure that I have good listening skills within that, though, because their dog decisions might align with the coyote decision to chase the rabbit and not see the big truck coming because they're so focused on that rabbit.
Or just getting lost. I've seen a lot of dogs lately that seem to be getting lost.
Absolutely.
And just, that someone's, calling them and the dog's ignoring and leaving and they can disappear pretty quick.
Yeah. I wonder if there's something to that. Like, are people just not training their dogs as much anymore? Are the expectations not as high? Like, there does seem to be a lot more lost dogs these days. Maybe we're just hearing more about it because we have
social media,
such small worlds with social media.
But you know what? I don't know if I remember in the past, maybe I was at parks more, but I'd see people practicing their recalls. They would have a long line on their dog and you'd see them, calling, come, and then following through with a little pop and then running away from the dog and having fun. I haven't seen someone training a recall with a long line in a long time.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Maybe we're solving some problems right now.
Right, yeah.
Maybe people have forgotten to train.
People aren't.
At any rate.
You know what? You know what it mimight be too? With the advent of so many dog parks, people no longer have to teach their dog how to come. Before dog parks, you if you took your dog off leash, you had to call them back. Yeah. But now people have this security of the fence. I wonder if that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It certainly could be part of it because the culture of dog parks is definitely a relatively newer thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, when we first got into dogs, they were just starting to be something that people talked about.
Right, yeah.
So
But before I would go to the park or field or the forest, take my dog off leash, and I needed my dog to come back.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas I don't use dog parks now, but I think the average person would think to go there maybe.
Yeah.
And not work on the recall.
Yeah. It's really, if you give up the idea of having the instant gratification with the dog where you can take them off leash right from the get-go, if you give up that idea in place of doing a few months of training with your dog and working hard at training that recall, you can have the freedom forever and you can have the freedom outside of the dog park.
Right, yes.
So maybe that's a good New Year's resolution to get into, or, reacquaint yourself with the idea of training a really good recall with your dog, because it truly does. It allows for so much freedom and so much peace of mind, because to me, the recall is not only the ability to get out in the world and allow your dog to have the freedom to be a dog and explore and sniff, etc. It's also having the faith and the confidence that you're never going to find yourself in a situation where your dog has slipped out the front door, where the gate's been left open, where that actually becomes a really awful scenario instead of just come on back in here. What are you doing out there on the porch when you open the front door sort of thing? So.
Or even this morning when I was taking Honda out for a little walk, I dropped the leash. I don't know what. I was fumbling. I was making sure I had cleanup bags, and all of a sudden the leash is on the ground. Yeah. And Honda can't hear, but he won't range far away from me. But if that had been a young dog, I might have panicked. Yeah. But, if I've taught a recall or a response to name, I can just call their name. And they'll turn and go, what? And I can just calmly pick up the leash again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, a lot of these skills they get a little bit harder because we allow the rehearsal of the wrong things with our dogs. Right. So if you can buckle down for those first few months as you train the skills that you want, you are going to find that at the end of that, your dog has great skills and they haven't been allowed to rehearse the wrong things.
Right,
so, just like you were talking about earlier, if you were over at a friend's house or you were at your parents' and you said Honda and Honda didn't turn, if he could hear, of course, that you would recognize that as a dog training problem.
Right.
So I think that that's something that we need to really help people understand, is that if you can prevent yourself from having the dog learn the wrong things,
Right.
it makes your life so much easier in the long run. It truly does.
And it's so easy to make an excuse. I call Honda. Oh, well, he didn't come because he's excited. Or Honda. Oh, well, he found a treat on the floor, so he's not coming. But those are excuses. They're not helping my dog learn.
Absolutely. And they are.
Well, they're helping him learn the wrong
things.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like telling the dog that it's okay when you're in this situation where you are excited. It's okay for you to ignore me. You keep being excited and you keep ignoring me.
Right.
And it's not that they're a horrible dog for ignoring you in that moment at all. It's like if a kid is, kids at the circus and they're really excited and they've got their cotton candy in hand and you're trying to get them to do math equations and they're like, I can't, there's an elephant.
Right.
Oh,
yes.
The elephant's eating my cotton candy. Oh my gosh. It's the same thing though.
Right.
In that moment, the child's not being bad. They're just, there's too much.
They're
for them.
overfaced, yes.
So if you were then to say, hey, call their name, give them a tap on the shoulder, and then when they turn back towards you, you acknowledge that they did a great job turning back towards you, and now you can entertain yourself.
You know what, though? I think you're a very mean mom to make your child do math at the circus. What kind of fun trip was that?
I am the mean mom. I'm a little different in my parenting styles, if you will. I think if my child can do math at the circus, they can do math anywhere. So I'm leaning into this problem, leaning into it. That's actually advice that I give people a lot, is not to do math at the circus, but to lean into the problem, rather than avoiding the problem. Do not avoid the problem.
Face the problem.
Yeah, face the problem, because then you can solve it.
Right, yeah.
If you avoid the problem, it's not likely to get better.
Like I talked many podcasts ago about the time I took Gavin to a cemetery to let him, it was a pioneer cemetery with a big field beside it, and there was lots of trees. He wasn't allowed in the cemetery part. I just called it that. But I took him there to let him run off leash.
Okay.
And he chased a squirrel and went under somebody's fence into somebody's backyard.
Oh,
he ignored my come command. Yes. Well, the moment I got my hands on him, we plunked him back in the car. I drove home and I got a long line, and I just didn't get out and watch TV. I drove back to the cemetery park, put the long line on him, and we practiced. Yeah. And we did that every day for a good week or two.
Absolutely.
Because I thought, never again will you ignore me.
And you know what? I feel like this is I'm
going to finish. That sounded mean.
Yeah.
Never again will you ignore me and put yourself in danger.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was because Honda ran into someone's yard under a fence. And who knows that, that yard could have had an aggressive dog in it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like this is a very cathartic thing to do as well, because if your dog ignores you on a recall and you're stuck in this state where you're angry with them, right? That darn dog didn't come when he was called and embarrassed me in front of all those people. I just don't like him anymore, right? We have all these weird human emotions,
we
right?
do,
Who
yes. Yeah, or you feel betrayed.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good way to put it. You feel betrayed. I'm so good to you. I feed you. I clothe you.
Right, yeah.
They don't like the clothes.
Yes.
But
yeah, I've done all this for you. I love you.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of just acknowledging that this is a mistake, and maybe a mistake because he wasn't ready to be off leash in that situation, et cetera, and not judging.
Obviously he wasn't ready to be off. He wasn't ready to be off leash with the squirrels.
Yeah. Well, and there you go. Yep. And he had that moment that could have worked against you, but you turned it into a good thing. So going back to the park now and practicing the recall and having him get
and not
back
in a mad way, in a fun way. Like
absolutely.
I also brought treats and his toys, and I made it so he said, you know what, Christine's far more fun than chasing a squirrel.
Yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, training angry.
Oh yeah, it doesn't work.
It's not going to work anyways. Your dog's going to go, oh my gosh, you're mean and scary. I don't want anything to do with you. And then you're just going to have to be so physically forceful to make them do what you want them to do. There's nothing cathartic about that. Yes. Yeah, that's not a good way to train. We want our dogs to be on board with it. Like, yes, we need to hold them accountable. Yes, there's correction. Yes, we say you must, but we want our dogs to be like, yeah, this is fun.
That was fun.
This.
There was huge celebration. Yeah. So, Honda would see a squirrel, come, give a pop, woohoo, hooray.
Absolutely.
Or it wasn't Han, it was Gavin. Yay, Gavin, hooray. And we'd run around and have a party, play. He had that little toy, Mr. Koala. There was a huge party. So my demeanor was this, you know what, we're fun. So yeah, we never train out of anger. No.
Well,
no.
and
the importance of play in dog training is very important.
It's huge.
Yes.
You know what? We should do an episode on that.
We should.
That would be a good episode.
Importance of play.
And I think that like those cathartic moments where you're like, okay, I like you again. You know, we've worked through this and now it feels good to be in a relationship with you again because now we've found a common ground again versus just, oh, he ignored me at the park today. And then, you know, your partner comes home. Do you want to know what happened? He ignored me at the park today. And like, you just end up with this relationship that is very adversarial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adversarial. That's the word.
Yeah. Thank you. Instead of being the relationship that you want. Where,
Right.
you know, I love Levon and all his chaos when people look at him sideways. It's wonderful. I just need to get it under control so that I can control it. He needs to learn that he can be the Lovins. That's his nickname. Right. He's such a happy guy. He can be the Lovins.
But he can be a lemon too.
But only in certain situations and only with certain people.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Otherwise, you need to contain it, buddy.
Right.
You need to have some emotional control and you just bring it down a bit.
Yes.
Just enough so that you can listen. And I want him to be happy about people out there in the world with everything in my being.
Right.
I love that he is such a happy little guy. But it needs to be under control. You know, he can't see a person across the street and go, oh my God, my new best friend, and take off.
Right, exactly.
It just cannot happen. He needs to be able to contain himself enough to hear my words and follow my instructions. Right. And that's it.
That's it. I like to look at it as teamwork. So I want to develop a team between me and my dog. And just like you develop, a sports team, the coach provides guidance.
Absolutely.
The coach provides, consequences. Well, you know what? You tripped that guy, so you're in the penalty box for 2 minutes.
Yep.
We
Good
don't have
leadership.
Right. Yes. So think of yourself as a coach, and your dog is your team, and you want to work together and develop that, and you want to have a good team. So let's do everything we can to make us a good team.
I love that. That is the perfect. You know what? I would even say there is no chance that is going to fail as a New Year's resolution to just say, I want to be a better teammate with my dog.
Right. Yes. And I'm the coach.
Yep.
You're my team.
Absolutely.
Let's get some teamwork going.
Yep.
Yes.
Take charge. Figure out how you are going to help your dog reach the goals that you have in place and make it fun. Enjoy it and lean into it. Lean into it. You got those problems with your dog, lean into them. That's what I'm doing with Levon, taking him through town with his vest on and taking him through Canadian Tire with his vest on and going through all these places and making him be calm at the family functions, etc. I am leaning into this quote unquote problem of him being overly excitable and friendly with people. And you know what? It's paying off, right? It's feeling pretty good. So I'm proud of myself. Pretty happy with the start of my new year. All right. On that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Sweaty.
Happy training, everyone.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!